So yes, some very interesting things happening with Cyberpunk today. Check out the headline right here. Cyberpunk Future Update looks to embrace next-gen. True next-gen only features appear to be coming to Night City. Yes, someone recently discovered a hidden feature in Update 1.6 that was actually toggled off by CD Projekt Red. This is really, really cool because we also know that the expansion pack is going to be next-gen only. So it looks like we're going to be getting more and more next-gen features in the future. Plus, check out this right here. CD Projekt Red prepares to leave Cyberpunk with the players. The groundwork is being laid for content beyond the expansion. CD Projekt Red has given us an official update about mods and Red Mod. This is really cool, and it shows that yes, they are thinking about the future beyond the expansion. Also, it says Cyberpunk Street Cred problem. Will the expansion finally fix this issue? Street Cred needs to make sense. It needs to matter. But will Phantom Liberty make it make sense? Also, we have Cyberpunk's most underpowered feature. Why is this so ignored? I want to talk about it, and I hope that CD Projekt Red does something with this feature when it comes to the expansion big time. Then stop pretending Cyberpunk was always perfect. It never was, and it still needs work. Yikes. Shots fired right there. You guys are going to have to let me know what you think of this one. And here's a curious, interesting topic. Why are cats hairless in the Cyberpunk universe? There's actually a reason for this, believe it or not, and I'm going to explain that here in just a moment. But we also have to talk about this one right here. The flamingos seem to be an ongoing theme. They are literally everywhere. And there's probably like killer flamingos out there in Night City, but I always love the little teases about all the lore in Night City and Cyberpunk. But let's get into some official news from the official Cyberpunk Twitter account. So let's do this right now, shall we? So check it out right here. It says 1 million active players each day for 4 weeks in a row. Night City sure is thriving. Your passion and continued support leaves us speechless. And it says, thank you, Chooms. And look at his shocked face right there. Jackie looking absolutely amazed by this news. That is absolutely incredible. So what's going on with the numbers today for Cyberpunk 2077? Now, it is roughly around midnight right now that I'm actually filming this video. So yeah, we have 30,000 people concurrently online right now with a peak about 60,000 players. So it's definitely going downward, but it's very slow trend downward. It's absolutely incredible that these numbers are still sustaining themselves at this level. It just goes to show what Edge Runners actually did to the Cyberpunk community. I love it. And I'm curious to see what happens though with Phantom Liberty. Will Phantom Liberty have the effect that Edge Runners had? We'll have to wait and see. Also, if you are curious about what CD Projekt Red had to say about the future of Cyberpunk beyond the expansion, they actually released this right here. They said, take your first steps into Cyberpunk modding with Moretz, one of the Red Mod developers. In the second episode of our Red Mod tutorials, we'll answer some of your questions from the first episode and teach you how to create a new script mod step by step. So this is so important that CD Projekt Red leaves tons of tutorials for the modding community so that they can actually create tons of content for us after the expansion. So I hope they have like 50 tutorials for the modding teams out there that really, really want to go crazy with Night City, because yeah, it's definitely tough to learn the modding scene for the Red engine for sure. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about what was recently discovered in Update 1.6. This was a feature that was actually toggled off for some weird reason, hidden away by CD Projekt Red. But guess what? A mod actually brought this feature to the forefront, and you can actually try it for yourself. Check it out right here. CDPR's astonishing crowd density. And this was actually uploaded by Tudulity, I believe it is, or T-Duality. And they did a great job finding this. Here's the description right here. And I'll show you what you can actually do with this, because yes, it really does bring crowds to life in Night City. And it seems to be, yes, a very next-gen only feature. The question is, will this be coming to consoles? And it's interesting that it was actually toggled off by CD Projekt Red and kind of hidden away. And the only way you could bring it forth is through this mod, it doesn't seem to cause any performance issues from what I'm seeing. It just makes crowds more, I guess you would say, interactive. I've definitely noticed the numbers increase, but also what's cool is you see more people sitting on benches and interacting in that way. And I hope they keep pushing the crowd interactivity more and more in the future for Cyberpunk 2077. All right, so let's keep going. This is the description of the mod. This is key. It says, these crowd and traffic settings were added originally by CD Projekt Red into game files in 1.6 and accidentally found by me. For unknown reasons, CD Projekt Red forgot to add it into gameplay settings selector, so I made that. The game accepts. Bit more cars and people on high. I haven't found any performance drop incompatible with any pre 1.6 crowd density mods. You have been warned. It says because these mods wasn't there. So yeah, it's very, very cool to see again. You can adjust the crowds to astonishing levels. Of course, there's right now 3 different tickers you can choose from: low, medium, and then high. But this pushes it to astonishing, and it seems to also affect the traffic. So I'm curious to see what Phantom Liberty does to the crowd interaction. Perhaps this will also be included in update 1.7. Honestly, that's what I would expect them to be like. Hey, now you can adjust the crowds to astonishing levels if you want to with update 1.7. I guess they just weren't ready or something to add this in update 1.6 for some reason. I'm not too sure why. But anyway, let's keep going and talk about this one right here, how Street Cred needs to be desperately improved in Cyberpunk 2077. Check it out. It says this right here, and it comes from Weaponized Autism 69. It says, I feel like our Street Cred should be a defining factor in the game's main story. A requirement of 20 to 25 Street Cred before we can do the heist will be great with world building and game familiarity. I get where he is coming from here. It totally makes sense that you'd want to be recognized for your Street Cred, whether or not someone absolutely loves you or despises you. That's something that I was really, really hoping for, that Street Cred would really matter in that way. But I also want to say, be very, very careful with what you wish for when it comes to doing something like this. And I'll explain in just a moment, but let's get into the replies here. We have this one right here from Spider1132, who says, man, I got to 50 Street Cred before the heist. Then I walk up to Emmerich with Jackie, and he's still like, who might you clowns be? I guess Street Cred doesn't mean crap in the afterlife. And you know what? I really, really hope that Phantom Liberty taps into Street Cred a little bit more and they make it matter, you know, how people react to you, how factions can disapprove of what you're doing and another faction can absolutely love and adore you for, you know, completing a heist or something like that. That would be really, really cool to make friends and enemies based on some things that you do within the game world. Now, we have a very interesting in-depth reply here, and this is what I immediately thought of. I thought of games like you know, the Assassin's Creed franchise have recently gated your progress. When you just want to move on to a story quest, you have to do a bunch of side activities first, and then, hey, now you can finally go on to the main story mission after doing a lot of filler quests and things like that. That's something you got to be extremely careful about with games. Check it out right here. This comes from Critical Switch, who says this: creating additional requirements to be able to start missions wouldn't add anything, and it's something I absolutely despise in other games that have something similar. Makes the whole game feel shallow. It's like, hey, we need to do this ASAP, but you got to work on your PR before we allow you to help us with it. So go shoot some random enemies on a street corner or win a street race. That's gonna do it. Now, I do want to stop there just for a moment and say this. One thing that is compelling about Cyberpunk and adding kind of like requirements to certain missions, like heist missions and stuff like that, is that Cyberpunk has actually very, very interesting side quests and side storylines. So that's a little bit of a wrinkle here into adding requirements, of course. However, let's keep going here. Because never mind that the whole story is written around the fact that Beast Cred is relatively low at the beginning and only increases substantially after the heist, and it's only after the heist that the game actually begins. Street Cred is an extremely basic feature, and there's no point putting more content behind it. It's just an arbitrary progress bar. To become something more, it would need an overhaul, but that would also require changing way too many existing systems, including potentially the actual story and quests, which, you know, I agree with that 100%. I do not think they are going to go through the vanilla game and adjust Street Cred at all. However, Phantom Liberty may have an entirely different system. I'm hoping they have some sort of reputation system or something built into Pacifica. That actually would make sense, and it would be really, really cool to see. And at that point, you realize that it has the exact same issue as Karma in Fallout 3. It just doesn't make much sense to have one stat that directs your reputation across the whole playing area, as it makes the world building too simple. You'd want separate reputation relation stats for every faction in the game, and ideally more than one type of it, because in Cyberpunk, parties that don't necessarily like each other will still do business if it benefits them enough. Plus, separate standing with specific vendors, story-related NPCs, and separate reputation for each district or different districts. But you can't really mount that on the top of an existing game. You need to make the game with such a system in mind for that to even matter. So it needed to be in the game from the beginning. I totally agree. That's why I think Phantom Liberty kind of has a chance with this sort of thing, because it feels like it might be like a fresh start specifically for Pacifica. So yeah, we'll see what they do. Now we need to talk about some features that are kind of being, I would say, ignored in Cyberpunk 2077, and that being this one right here. Why don't projectile launchers make your arms look fully cybernetic like they do in the promo art? And yeah, there's mods where you can actually do something like this, of course, but I want to see official support for this. And in fact, with projectile launchers, they're completely underwhelming in this game. My God, they could do so much more with an actual play style with the projectile launchers. I was so disappointed, even to this day, with how weak they are. Yeah, you can make them somewhat powerful, but I don't think it's our first thought to, oh, I have to have a projectile launcher on my arm or on my character to make the ultimate build. That's just not the way it goes. All right, we got to talk about this right here. Why are the hairless cats the only ones left in Night City? That's a great question. Let's get into the reason right here. Check it out right here. Because I think some NPCs or maybe a radio news talked about it. Cats and dogs got some serious virus that spread very wildly, and afterwards of the infection was that anyone who wants to have a pet have to pay an immense monthly fee just to be able to keep it. What I think that happened was the mass slaughter to contain the virus. Not sure if fur had something to do with it, and then pets became something very restricted to those who can pay for it. So yeah, it's very interesting, the lore behind cats. And then we have this response as well. That and the ecosystem has more or less collapsed. Strangely enough, though, I recall some bit of the game where some Night City official had the idea of using cats to hunt down and eliminate rats in a city block that was overrun with them. And when asked as to whether the designees of the block could feed or even keep the cats as pets, not only did the official respond with a vehement no, but mentioned how you could be given a fine if found to be feeding the cats. And here we have another response. Yep, that's in the in-game explanation given for Nibbles. Basically, one of the last real cats specifically bred for routing in the Mega Block. So, yeah, it seems like Nibbles' breed is very common, of course, in Night City. And they might also be hairless as a design for genetics to keep fleas away. Because I would imagine that, yes, having fur would attract more fleas. So that's also another theory I have in regards to why many of these cats are actually hairless. All right, so let's go into your top comments from my most recent Cyberpunk video. So let's do this, which was about this right here. Yes, that just happened. New updates from CD Projekt Red, Bayonetta 3 voice actress update. Yeah, that's a whole interesting story that has been constantly developing. Let's see what you guys had to say about this one. Of course, Face says this: I think a season 2 of Edge Runners would be awesome if it was a completely separate story from season 1. That being said, anything placed in the Cyberpunk universe would be awesome. So yeah, that video was basically about how it is confirmed now that we are not going to be getting an Edge Runners season 2. But I love this approach. What you just said, that if they did do a season 2, they could just do a whole new cast of characters. It doesn't necessarily have to be the exact same characters. It doesn't even have to involve Lucy, although it would be cool to see her as a cameo. But yeah, I just have so much trust in Trigger Studios with pulling off some amazing Cyberpunk stories. So honestly, I want to see them continue it, but I'm also apprehensive because I love Edge Runners so much. That's how I am about a lot of films like Heat, The Godfather, those sort of movies. They should remain untouched and sacred. You know what I mean? All right, then we have JT King who says this: I hope the expansion focuses more on making Night City more immersive than just a short story expansion. Also, I hope it's not a point of no return mission. I hear you on that one. Hopefully there's a good ending too. And we have Birch who says this: we should totally have another Cyberpunk anime. Just let David and Lucy's story be done. Absolutely one of the most upvoted comments right there. Yes, it's perfectly told. Why mess with something so good? Dariel says this: I'm a firm believer that a respect for attributes should be an option, or at least up the level cap to make up for build mistakes and allow to max out all attributes. Yeah, they need to do something in the long term with attributes respecs. I think it should just be an option. That's just how I feel about it. Or we need New Game Plus, where you have a higher level cap as you enter New Game Plus or something like that. That would be really cool. All right, there it is. The latest happenings around Cyberpunk 2077. I know it's kind of a bummer that it looks like we wouldn't be getting Edge Runner Season 2, but overall, I'm very, very happy with what they did with that one, of course. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what they do with update 1.7. There's no news about an exact release date for this one, but I'm hoping that maybe it would release before 2022 is over. It would be nice to get a Christmas present. That would be cool. Thank you all so much for watching. Stay tuned for more, and I will see you all next time. Take care.